Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Three Men in the Football podcast. How are we doing, lads?
All right, how are we? Thomas, Simon, are we having a good week?
Hi boys, how are we?
Good.
All good. What have you been up to?
I've basically been working and doing maths lessons for people.
yeah. Our family, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the lockdown and potentially coming to an end soon?
I can't wait. I can't wait to get back out either on the golf course, the football pitch, just to socialise. I mean, at a social distance, you know, we don't want to get too close to people. But certainly it'd be nice to get back to some relative normality, whatever normality is. What about yourselves?
Fingers crossed we're in tier 1 or tier 2 after he's announced it. So it'd be good to be able to go out and maybe get a pint, I don't know.
Yeah. So today we've got Mick Watson coming and joining us, who does the Straight From The Off podcast. Obviously, he's a professional, so we're going to have to put our A game on because he's been doing the podcast for a while. But he's been doing this podcast now for maybe, I don't know, it's got to be like 4 to 5 months. He's had some real names on his podcast from local amateur football and also some locals who've made it into the pro game. Also, we've played against him at some stage, that's when we were a lot younger.
Yeah, you know me, mate. It's like, I think, you know, my memory's shocking. I'm sure he's got a better memory than me. I'm hoping he has.
Well, you might be able to give Thomas some tips on either managing or podcasting.
To be honest, I've had a missed call, Darren, off of Mick. I ignored it because I didn't know who it was. Maybe he's wanting me to go on his podcast.
Yeah. Well, we've already got the merchandise, the Two Men, the football site sorted. Yeah. So,
well, I'll tell you what. Let's get him on and see how it goes. See if he actually wants you on his podcast. All right, let's get him on. Hello, Mick, and welcome to the podcast. How are you doing, mate?
Hello, lads. Nice to be on. Nice to see you, mate. I'm great. Thanks very much.
How are you coping with the lockdown?
It's doing me head in, mate. Absolutely. I just want to. First and foremost, I want to watch my lad play footy. He's only 8. I've recently started managing their team, which is great. So I want to get back to that and obviously watch the kids develop. And secondly, I just want to get back in the Annie Road, mate, in my seat and watch the Reds, especially while we're this good.
Yeah, so, you don't want to miss it, do you?
Mick, so you're managing your lads' team?
Yeah, only recently.
Yeah, that's. Sorry, that's never going to end well when he's about 15 or 16, you know, just to let you know. I've had similar issues with my brother.
So I can, I don't know whether it's a long-term thing. He's plays for the juniors, which is like a big North End set up with probably hundreds of teams. And what they do is one of the parents or they'll have a coach nominated to run the team and for whatever reason, the coach recently stepped away from it, so the other parents asked me to step in because he said, "You've got a podcast." I said, "Oh, well, that qualifies me then." So I took over the team recently, and don't get me wrong, I was there every week anyway, just watching. So he's a goalie, so I can't teach him much. Obviously, I was a failed striker, and he's a goalie, so you've got to be a bit on the bends between the sticks, but. He's loving it, mate, and that's the main thing. He's just going every enjoying his footy. So
are you enjoying it?
Yeah, love it. Really. So it's just, especially with not being able to play myself now with bad knees and things. If I could be playing, I'd be playing in the vets footy 100%. Yeah. Saturday I get along and watch the lads when I can. Take our match with me, but he started playing Saturdays and Sundays now. He's a bit in demand because he's a goalie, so. It's at that age, usually kids don't want to go in goal, so he had to pick up a couple of teams lately and he's playing Saturdays and Sundays, so we're just...
Nice, mate, now you can live your life through him.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's it.
We all do it, mate, we all do it.
I've got a podcast and I've also managed a team and I'm not qualified for either.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're, I was saying this to you the other day, you're like our first local celebrity guest. So we've had a couple of pros on or ex-pros on, but you're our first local celebrity guest because now all of a sudden everyone in Liverpool knows who you are. So if I talk about podcasts to anyone, the first thing people say is, "Oh, you mean that's Straight From The Off?" I
wouldn't say celebrity, far from celebrity, but it's amongst lads of our similar age to ourselves, or a few years older, a few years younger. It's like a bit of a members club, really. I mean, the podcast, it's great, as you know. My podcast especially can only go so far. It's only interesting to so many people.
Yeah.
If it sort of captivates that audience, then great. But obviously, you're not gonna get lads. Then again, it on the data stats and that you see, it pops up all around the world, but they're just scousers who are all around the world.
Exactly.
It's not gonna. You're not gonna get lads in, for instance, I don't know, Scotland.
Yeah.
Got no affiliation to Liverpool Amateur footy, listening to it, although they might just think, who are these lunatics? Some of the people we've been on and some of the stories, but it's like I said, it's like a members only club. So
that's one of the things that's a little bit different with us, because we have got people from around the world listening to it, because we talk about some of the Premier League stuff as well. So we get a real mixed audience. We get the local audience, and then we get people who are totally unrelated. And it's hilarious interacting with them and them trying to understand the accents that come on. Even ours, they've got no idea, but they get used to them after a while.
We do have Mick a translator, but Thomas doesn't always translate right.
Yeah, his linguist skills is not great.
So what Aaron sent to I got this mad email saying we'll do transcripts of your podcasts because some people are hard of hearing and things like that. I actually got a few messages saying, have you got transcripts? And they're that long and we talk that fast, it'd take forever. But this guy said, I'll do a sample for you. And he sent me it through on an email, a transcript. It made no sense whatsoever. What he thought we were saying. I was like, oh my God. I thought I might just put that out for a laugh, because people will just cry laughing, thinking about, because we talk that fast and the little quips that we say and here and there, like that. I don't think they'd, like me, my missus always says, you stop saying is right. And I'm like, sorry.
It's hard, isn't it?
And my mum shouts at me for swearing. My mum shouts at me for swearing all the time. I'm 40, you know what I mean? What can you do?
So did you say you're nearly 40?
Yeah, 40.
You make me sick. You make me sick.
You didn't tell me he was a young one as well, Si,
youngster, yeah. So when did you, we'll go back to earlier years, but when did you stop playing?
I done my first cruciate when I was 23.
Wow.
Wow.
I've done both knees. I've done my right knee twice. And then I was to and fro but surgeries. Was going to Fazakli Hospital. I was seeing I don't want to drop anyone in here, but I was seeing a doctor who wasn't very good, let's say. And the moment I went private, I went to Spire to see Andrew Taylor. I was going to. What happened was my knees would dislocate at least once a season, every season from when I was about 16. So when they dislocate, I'd probably miss about 3 months of footy each season. So it was like a quarter of the season. I was going to the hospitals over it all the time, and they were saying it's ligaments, it's this, it's that. So I wasted must have been 5-6 years of doing that, and then I went private to Andrew Taylor in Spire. Cost a couple of quid, at 200 quid at the most. And he was like, oh, I know exactly what that is within minutes. And I was like, you're joking, you wasted all that doing this. So then he fixed me right knee. And then as soon as he fixed me right knee, that's when I basically stopped playing. I was off work for about 4 or 5 months. I stopped playing, started managing teams. And then when I gradually started playing again, I was on my left knee. So I just thought, right, time to pack the footy in, because obviously when it starts interfering with your work and your livelihood and stuff, and plus I'm a scaffolder by trade, so I'm up and down ladders all day carrying all kinds of tube and weight and things like that. Once it started affecting me in work, I'd have a few wobbles coming downstairs. I thought, I've got to pack this in, so. Yeah.
Mick, sorry to interrupt. Just for my dad, which scaffolding firm, because my dad was a scaffolder and he'd love this, any stories. What scaffolding firm do you work for, or did you work for?
I work for Linden SGB at the moment, which is in...
SGB, yeah, Dad worked for them, he'd love that.
The old legacy SGB with scaffolding Great Britain, who my dad and all his mates work for.
My dad worked for them as well. He loved it. Do you know what? My dad loves this already, this podcast.
Do you know what? Mick will become son number 5. You'll get
promoted. Could be, what do you do Christmas Day for lunch? Because my dad might invite you around here. So my dad worked for Scaffold at SGB in the 80s, and then Kings as well.
Kingies, yeah.
Phil and John, who are now, I think Phil does Climax Scaffold now. No relevance to anyone else on this podcast, but my dad is going to love you. I can feel it now.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family, Mick.
Pleasure.
So Mick, so you said you were a failed striker. Let's go back to, you finished school and you're progressing into open age. Who was the first team that you played for when you got into open age?
The first open age team I played for was I was playing for my dad's team. It was a continuation of a youth team called Moss Lane, which is lads who went to Archie Beck for Zach and around that area. So during the pre-season of that, there was a lad from Bazzachley who's like quite well known. He was like an ex-pro called Davy Robbo. So he's the same age as Fowler, people like that play for Liverpool. He was a good close friend of the family, and during that pre-season, while I was still, we were in the Shankly playing fields in I think it was the West Derby League. They went a year later than the Walton Kirkdale and places like that, McGull and Lydiate, where we played. So you got an extra year with them before your open age. So it was possibly under 16, so I was still in school. And he said, come down, David Robbo said, come down for the Holy Name, which is the Sunday League team. So I went down for the Holy Name, played a few games pre-season, and just scored loads of goals, scored about 10 goals in 3 games. And Davey said, we'll have to take you somewhere on a Saturday. He said, come with me to Ashton United. So John Coleman was just took over player manager there. Went on a trial up at Ashton. I was miles off it. Well too big, well too fast, well too strong. The lads, well too much up there for me. At that time, I was a dribbler, but I thought, no, there's no chance I'm making it here. Didn't invite me back. Went back to the Holy Name. And their season had started before my own teams, which was back in the youth leagues. And then when our season started, I was playing for my dad. So I basically said to the manager of the Holy Name at the time, I'm going to stay with my dad's team. He was like, oh, stay with us. It'll be great. I said, I can't. I play with my mates and my dad's team. I was saying to them, by the way, I'm no better than my mates. If all my mates come here and played with you as well, they look great, you know what I mean? It was just put in a good team. I think when I had Dave Jones on the other day, he was talking about it. He said, I think it was the 3rd or 4th division of the Liverpool Sunday at the time. Yeah. He'd just come in from either the Knowsley League or the Kirby League, Holy Name at the time. So I ended up going back to the youth leagues, and then the manager of the Holy Name at the time, John Hitchman, he was like a player manager. He said, I'm going to take you to Stantondale, which was the semi-pro club in Orrell Park, which is 100 yards away from the Warbrick. They played in the counties at the time, and Peter McDermott was the manager, Terry McDermott's brother. So that was quite interesting. But again, I was 16, miles out of my depth in them counties against I always classed the Old Zabs as one of the biggest teams I've ever seen in my life. But these the likes of them back in the day, Skem and your Fleetwoods, when they were down there, they were huge, and I just couldn't cut it. I couldn't hack it.
But they're also big and quality footballers as well.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Brilliant, and I'm going into it, I haven't played no adult footy whatsoever. I had 4 games for the Holy Name, not knowing what to expect, and I remember just getting beasted on headers and things like that. And I remember the manager saying to me, if you can't get up and win the header, just make sure you jump up that couple of seconds before them, try and put them off and things. And Peter McDermott was great with us, but we couldn't cut it, and they were struggling, to be honest, at the time. So it wasn't as if they had the luxury of trying to bring through these young kids, because they were struggling. We played at Formby's old ground, the
nice
ground up there. That was our pitch after the Stantondale. The pitch on Stantondale got bought and turned into like a housing development on the old BA there in Orrell Park. And then I just went back to youth footy, and then I didn't start playing adult footy then until it was about 18. I went to the St Phillies, which obviously played against you guys for the Old Zabs back in the Zingari Prem. So that was another...
Thing is, you were a youngster then, no, mate. We were older. So I'm 6 years older than you. Darren's 5 years older than you. So we'd have been playing in that Zavs team, and at that stage, we'd have probably been. If you're at 18, we're like 23, 24. As you may have just joined, I'd have been playing for maybe a year.
Yeah, 1999 it was.
Yeah, I think I joined when I started to go to uni because I could 2:30 kickoffs.
Yeah.
I think, and I could play because I had to be in work for 5:30, and I couldn't play the 3 o'clock games or something. So Billy got me down for the Zavs for 2:30.
What that was 99? I started in 99.
Yeah, because that was university. 99, I went to uni.
Yeah, so that would have been our first year. But we'd obviously been older than you, but that was our first year.
Yeah. So being a local lad around that area, I grew up on Long Lane where
really?
You've got Jeffrey Humble. You walk out of my door in the middle. You had the Jeffrey Humble on your left, and you had the Joe Stone on your right.
Yeah.
Bang in the middle of that main road. So as a kid, obviously, your dad used to drink in the Crown, and the St. Phillies Club went to St. Phillies School. So they were like, the St. Phillies and the Sunday team at the time, Bulford, were like massive to me. They were like proper legends. I go and watch them as a kid, and I used to think to myself, wow, these are great. And it probably wasn't that great, but I was a kid who was banging to footy. I fell in love with footy probably, obviously when Liverpool was doing well in the 80s, but I think it was the Italian 90 World Cup just got a grip of me, and I was going to watch them thinking, I can't wait to play for these when I get old and stuff like that. And then I ended up going there when I was just 18, just turned 18.
So then who were the players at that stage? Who were the best players in that team?
You had the old, I say old, but he's only just packed in playing now. Peter Walsh, he was the centre half. He was
quality footballer, him.
He was about 5'8". I've never seen him lose an header. He was unbelievable. You had Ian Hawksey on the wing. Old John Jones, left-footed on the wing. Willow, who played for the Fantail. Little Nark in midfield.
Kicked off all the time.
He was my partner. Mick Shaw was unbelievable. By the way, he went to the APH, didn't he, and won the league with them, and then come back to us. I think he just wanted to win the league, so he had a year sabbatical with APH. Must have been late 90s, won the
down
league.
the other end of the city as well. What's that all about?
Yeah. And then
he must have had a Swansea save away.
I think they were on his case for years, Darren, to go there, and he was dead loyal to us and the lads around that area. He lived on Lamford Avenue himself, but he was unbelievable. Stevie Hall was playing, and then some of the older legends had just finished playing, the likes of Stevie Gibbo and Quirky, and that. So
Quirky was quality when we started playing.
Yeah, brilliant. They were all really, really good players. Joe Devine, another one, centre half. They had loads of cracking players, but then, like what I say on my podcast, they sort of all age at the same time.
Yeah,
it's that knowing when you've just got to replenish with a bit of youth. And they started doing that at the right time, the Phillies. But I think the blend was, there was too many too young and too many too old, and not enough in the middle. Probably around about your age at the time, lads like that. Probably not enough of them in mid-20s. So we had teenagers and lads who were late 30s. Yeah. Not enough in the 20s in the middle, basically. But I love playing for them. As I say, I grew up watching them. Going over to watch them every week. I go over with as all my mum and the dog, and then end up playing for them. And it was quite early on. They made me captain. Peter Walsh put me captain, so I was like, wow. And then a few of my mates were going to counties teams again, the likes of your Bootles, Formbies, and I got us to go as they did, because we were sort of like a little club, me and my mates, but I never wanted to go. I was like, I'm playing for the Phillies. He just made me captain. I'm made up. I'm staying where I am. 2 minutes away from the pitch. Most of the games are in the area, except for when we play Uslot down the south end. But
how long did you stay there?
They were like days out for us. I've never ventured down that side of the city only for footy, so we loved it.
How long did you play for them, Mick?
Yeah, played for the Phillies, and just before they folded, which I think that I regretted that I left just before they folded, because it got really hard, and a lot of my mates had left to go to Bootle, and they were getting a few quid for playing, and they were after me to go for a few years. So probably played for the Phillies for about 4 years.
They weren't great in the end, were they, before they folded?
No. It started going downhill, and the younger lads who were coming through, who should have been playing for Phillies, got their head turned by, I don't know, your 20 quid, your 25, 50 quids of your Northwest Counties type teams, and that's where they went. So in the end, I thought I've got to go, but it did break my heart to go, and looking back on it now, I regret it. I mean, I don't regret playing for Bootle. They were a great club, but I regret leaving Phillies at the time because the chairman, Alan Williams, who was just everything to the club, he's like, Joe Stone was obviously the legend of that era and that place, Sparrowall, as we say. Obviously the field's named after him, but Alan Williams is like a close second. He kept the Phillies together, and luckily enough, we got him over to the Warby on a Sunday, which sort of propelled us as a set, because you know yourself, the people behind the scenes and the people at football, two ways about it. Players come and go, but you've got people like Alan, Joe Stone, people like that who obviously they're making the cogs turn in the background and keeping football clubs going. So
just on that, Mick, it's interesting you say that, because I think even now you have the older generation who are still involved in clubs in some way. I mean, we're at the South now, and the behind the scenes stuff is unbelievable what happens when we turn up to play a game, and we're the vet side, so the first team must get treated beautifully. But I do think back then, though, in the 80s, 90s, certainly going into 2000s, every club had that stalwart of men who just kept it going. And I think that was brilliant. Every club knew your chairman, you knew your secretary, the fixture guy. Everyone had that club. And you know, I've been fortunate to play for some great clubs who had that behind them.
Yeah, the stuff at the South now is brilliant, because there's two fellas who are there all the time, not involved in like the setup of the teams or anything, not on the committee, but just come before the game and they'll put the goals and nets up before the game, before we even get there. Yeah, and then Jimmy will be there, he'll sort out the pitch. There's people are just total unsung heroes of local amateur football. Without them, it doesn't function.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly what it is. You need them people. Yeah. You need them. They're the lifeblood of the game.
Yeah. So, Mick, going back to the Phillies, when you were in your when you were at your best, who were your main rivals and who were the best players in them teams that you used to think, oh, no, we're playing against this one today? Or did you think like that?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. Yeah, I've always been I don't know, some people say a bit of a nerd, but I've always took interest in other people's teams and wondered to myself, what are they doing that we're not, or who's he play for on a Sunday, or always like sort of, my mates were saying I was trying to manage football teams when I was in school, but I think that's just the way you're programmed, isn't it, sometimes? Yeah. East Villa was probably our derby at the time. They had some great players, East Villa, over the years, obviously, and you played them on Mini Wembley, which was always good. That was like the cup final pitch of especially our part of the north of the city. So you had like the Dockers pitch and you had the East Villa pitch, Mini Wembley. So playing on there with them, we had some great battles with them. They had some great players, Frankie Bryce centre half. They had a bit of a connection with the Wesley, didn't they, on a Sunday? Yeah. They had like a bit of a crossover there. They had some great players. Some of the lads who ended up playing for the Oyster and winning national cups were playing Saturdays for East Villa, early doors, like Lippo and the likes of them. So they were there early.
They were all players that when we were at our best at the Zabs, they were our main rivals, the East Villa. Yeah. They were the ones who we always knew that no matter what was going on and how good the side we had out, that was, if we won that game, that was massive for us, especially away.
Yeah, Sam, you know that. Who was the guy? Is it Franny? Used to play.
Franny played centre mid, yeah.
I think he played at the wing as well, didn't he? At times he could play anywhere.
So then you had Ginner, who played on the wing, who was hilarious.
Brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, brilliant, but loved to go over the ball as well. But was always apologised afterwards.
Yeah.
But they were a really good side because they had players who could leave the foot in, but they had some ability. I mean, everything about the game was hard. And they had Graham Rooney play for them for a while as well. He did really well for them.
To be honest, right, some of the lads that you mentioned there, even like Scott Riley, Lippo, Peter Gannon, they'd have all played for the Phillies. All their dads and their uncles and all that would have played for the Phillies. So that's where they sort of went wrong in in the end, to St. Phillies, he didn't get them players in when they could have, or when they should have.
Yeah.
So that probably, they ended up shipping to other teams and ended up playing for East Villas or the Reds Rum, or even in the CMS League with the Finnegans, the lads from Lamford. They had a great team. It was a bit of a hotbed for footy. You could either play footy, fight, or drive scramblers. But they were like the three options you had going up in Sparrow Wall. So.
Driving scramblers, that's brilliant. You still see it now when you go down there and play. There'll be a couple of kids just riding up and down on scramblers.
Oh, mate, honestly.
So, I mean, you're going to have to let our foreign fans know what a scrambler is.
Yeah, a scrambler's like a motorbike when you're riding off-road. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's the visual clue.
In fact, last time we played there, I think we played on Joe Stone, and we all come to park on that road, and there was 3 lads driving the scrambler, like literally just hurtling down the street to the point where I took my car away and put it on the other side because I was worried about the mitting.
Crazy. Great, but there was obviously loads of great teams.
But you're right, you think like Lippo and Gannon, they'd have definitely played for the Phillies, wouldn't they? They were from that area.
I think Peter was one of the first who went there. Peter Gannon went to the Phillies like really early. I think he was about 15. But I think he played for East Villa as a kid, Peter. So he always had like an affiliation to them. He's been there. He played for Finnegans in the CMS, but when the merger, the Zingari and the county comp, he went to East Villa. Then he's been there ever since. So I always say on my podcast, that I can't think of anyone who's probably chalked up more appearances in that Liverpool County Prem than Peter, because he's never injured and he seems to play every week, and he's 40 now, so he's played every week for East Villa since 2006.
Yeah,
so there can't be many more people who've got more appearances in that league, I don't think.
Yeah, the new league, the new formed league. I mean,
the new format. Yeah.
So we won it. We won the Zingari the year before it merged, and then we got a rude awakening the first year that we went in when they merged it. I think we played the Dock in a game on Wally Hall, and they beat us 1-0, and that was really close. And then we played.
I played for the Dock. But I didn't play in that game.
Oh, really?
I'd done my knee in 2 games before, so. After Bootle, I signed for the Dock because obviously he was friends with Michael London and I was Jimmy. We played for the youth teams together, me and Michael. And the lads who I played with at the time for Bootle had dropped down out of the counties because they lost the ground. Yeah. They built a gym there to Total Fitness, I think.
Yeah.
So while he was sort of homeless, they had to drop into the counties. So when they done that, a few of my mates were still playing for them. They lost people like Ronnie Morgan to Leeds. Yeah. So they were a little bit light up top. So, I mean, I'm under no illusions. They probably wouldn't have asked me to play for them if they'd have had Ronnie Morgan still playing. But with him moving on to Leeds and getting a few bobs staying in the counties, they then had to get probably the next step down of players, which was us. So we sort of kept them going for a couple of years, Bootle. Yeah. But once my mates were leaving and going to Formby, I didn't fancy Formby. I don't know whether I didn't fancy it, and Michael was on the phone to me. He wanted me to go to Seymour of a Sunday, but I was always playing for my dad and the Warby lads. And he said, "Come to the Waterloo on a Saturday then." So I thought, I'll give it a go. Went there, played a couple of games pre-season, doing quite well, and then my knee went again in a friendly away at Newton. So someone sent me the programme site for that game.
Oh, really?
And when I looked at it, there's me, my name right at the bottom of the programme. I remember the game, Polo scored a free kick, didn't he?
Yeah.
One of my best mates was playing for Hughes, John Alpin.
Oh, really?
Centre half, he's one of my best mates from Exactly, so he played for the Warby with us, John.
How funny.
I went to school with him, and the next minute he just popped up playing for the Zaps. Like,
so then so then you did your knee in, and then never played for them again?
Didn't play a competitive game for them, mate. No.
Oh my God.
So I'd done about 5 or 6 games pre-season. That would have been the first competitive game. It was the Lord Mayor's Cup, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
The winner of the Zingari against the winner of the county comp, which would have been the last year of the county comp. So after that year, then the next year was the inauguration of the new league and the new format. So that's when I couldn't play, obviously. That's when it was the 4 months off work job. Bit of a reconstruction on the knee. So I got asked to take over Brunesk in the championship of the new league. So in that league, it was APH, South Liverpool, and Brunesk. Unfortunately, we got picked to the title by South Liverpool, who I think they won it by about 4 points, to go up into the Prem, which was obviously the beginning of the re-emergence of South Liverpool, you could say.
Yeah.
Because to find themselves in the championship of that was a bit mad anyway. I thought to myself, why is South Liverpool in the championship of this division when there's a Premier League? He'd obviously took whatever it was, top 6, Zingari, top 6 or whatever in the county comp. But some teams in that championship at the time, there was obviously, like I just said, then APH, we were sort of up and coming then at the time, but Esk had struggled for a number of years. But I think we come second anyway, so we got promoted. But we ended up with like 3 or 4 players in the rep side, which was probably unheard of from the league below. But we done really well, and I enjoyed the managing side of it. But as I say, when we got promoted then to the Prem, again, we lost players to Bootle, McGull.
Yeah, that's the problem, innit?
Yeah, you couldn't keep them. We didn't have enough pull. We weren't established enough to keep the top players that we were getting in. And then we struggled then. So
and you've got to strengthen when you make that step up as well, because although I don't think the ability is that different, I think the intensity of the game and the speed of the game is just different as well. And you've got more, you get teams with more quality players. So instead of there being, 3 or 4 players who are basically running the game, you're getting 5, 6, 7 decent players that it's really hard to go up against.
If you look at the likes of obviously the Waterloo at the time, and they've got the pick of the best Sunday players thrown into one team. They were sort of like, don't get me wrong, they were there on merit and they only played on merit, but they were pulled in from the best team. They had the pick. It was like when Jamie Chandler on my podcast, he was basically saying it was a conveyor belt of talent for them. They were just pulling them in from all the top clubs, and then, but obviously everything's got cycles, hasn't it? The Waterloo, I think they won the first.
They did.
It's 5, 5 on the trot or something like that. So that shows you how strong they were at that time. They're obviously a great team, but the league was strong as well back then. I mean, the county comp was strong, don't get me wrong, but the league was strong when it merged there.
Yeah, we struggled in the first year, and we got battered by the Dock in the league. And to be honest, that hurts because we had a decent team. We just didn't turn up one day. And then we just got better as it went. And then we struggled to beat them in the first couple of years. And then we'd have really close games against them. And then we started beating them. And it was like all of a sudden we were getting into our stride. The problem is that the Dock just kept strengthening. Yeah. So we had a good quality team, and Billy Birch was managing it as well. So he was bringing players in. But the Dock, just as you say, and Chandler was talking about, he was saying, if we had players on the line, he would have got in any other team in that league, but we're just standing on the line because they couldn't get in the squad.
I think also, Si, I think with the Dock, people knew if you went to Dock, and it was almost a stepping stone to go and get paid somewhere as well. Yeah. If lads weren't already getting paid, that's how good they were. They were the top side for many, many years. I think what happened with us at the Zavs is that a lot of us who were decent players all aged at the same time. Yeah. There was enough quality coming through to support our aging legs, if you will. And the Dock, always had those players. You could name 5, 6, 7 players who easily could have gone, League 2 to play.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And some of them did, didn't you? You look at some of the players that have been at the Dock. We in fact, before you come on, we were talking about Leighton McGivern. You look at players like him and you look at his quality. He could play all day in League 2. He could score goals all day in League 2. And I think it's interesting listening to some of the stuff that he's gone through and why he's not quite made it. Definitely not ability, because he's got all the ability in the world. But they had players like him in different positions. Had Chandler. How Chandler never got paid a load of money to play football, I'll never know.
Unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable.
But then, so you, was that it then? Did you not play again after that?
I didn't play again until from 2006. I probably had 5 years not playing. I started playing then. I was nowhere near any type of level, but I don't know. We played sort of mid-tier footy. Yeah. cups with after the war we folded. Our Sunday team went to the job. So don't get me wrong, I was involved in it, but I couldn't play much. They won the Business Hours Prem, won the Ormskirk Prem with the Warby. I played for a couple of teams in the Crosby League, but I could never put more than a couple of games together without doing myself in. And then I had a little run for Brunesk later on, about 2012, which really was the twilight of my career. We won the...
A little bit of nostalgia there at the end of your career.
We won the Business Hours Championship, got them
nice.
to the Prem, which was nice because they'd been through a bit of a barren spell. But since then, or more recently, my missus's cousin, Brandon Groves, runs the Saturday team now, and they're brilliant.
Really?
Up all the divisions on the Saturday, and they're in the Prem now. I think they're sitting top of the Prem now, and they've won all the cups along the way. So there's only a couple of trophies now that they haven't won. The Saturday Brunesk team. So I wish them all the luck.
Yeah, definitely. So then you go on.
Over 100 years old.
It's mad, that, isn't it? And there's a few teams like that. There's obviously the same, Brunesk.
Yeah. It's great to see these older clubs, if you like, coming back, making a resurgence in these leagues, you know, and it again goes back to the people behind the scenes who are keeping that going, even when they're not having the success they have now. They're keeping it going so that they hopefully will get that success again. And it's great to see Brunesk back up there.
Yeah. No,
What do you about that? What do you about that generational thing now? Because you think about the people who are keeping clubs going. There are not many people like you who would go and manage a team, or Thomas, who runs the South Vets. There's not as many people wanting to manage teams and be in the background anymore. People want to play and then they want to stop.
See, the beauty about that young Brunesk team now, they're all 22, 23, but the manager, Brandon Groves, who's obviously my missus's cousin, he's only 23 and he's
brilliant.
Wow.
He's doing us badges and he must have 5-6 trophies under his belt. So he's got a really good group of lads, and he plays himself, cracking little player, but he won't play himself. He's dedicated to management and trying to make the best he can at management. And I've got no doubt it won't be long before somebody comes in and takes him. I mean, I'm not saying they will, but the likes of your Bootle or your Renner, years to come, McGull maybe, they'll be the type of, they'll be looking to get the likes of Brandon in because he's got pull with that age group of lads. I think he's just lost a few players actually to Prestatyn. Yeah. John Lewis has just got the Prestatyn job, hasn't he? So a couple of players have gone there, obviously getting paid a few quid, and rightly or wrongly, they're going there to test themselves. Oh, you can't argue it's a better level, so they're going there to play. So, but Brandon won't complain. He'll crack on. He'll probably have his eye on a couple of other players coming through, and hopefully they can get over the line in that county Prem. I think they're playing Page Celtic in the cup final on it's the 12th of December. That's one of the cups from last year.
Is that a Saturday?
12th of December. I don't even know. He's just
I know it is. It'll be a Saturday one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So Mick, how did you transition? How did you transition from playing to that first season where you managed Brunesk, and how did you cope with, which I sometimes struggle with, dropping players and keeping the likes of Simon in check?
You know what? It didn't bother me, mate, when it comes to having to drop people, because my dad was the most like one-dimensional, focused, like man. I mean, he hasn't got a great background in football. He'll tell you himself he was a hacker. He says if you compare me to anyone, it'd probably be, I don't know, like a terrible Stuart Pearce or something. He's a left-footed hacker.
I'd take that.
But he, when it comes to the big game and making the right decision, he just, I don't know, sort of like the apprentice you fired. He was just like straight away, I'm making that decision for the good of the team. If I don't put that best player in that position, I'm letting 10 other people down. And it was sort of like, he was dead there. He was ruthless, but at the same time, the team sort of picked itself. So it wasn't as if, it wasn't coaching us, or it was the old mentality, you know, win your personal battles. Don't, you know, it wasn't no great tactical masterpiece, or we were 4-4-2 teams and things like that. But when it comes to, obviously, to my turn, I remember the first game I had 2 goalies, really good goalies. I had Sunday goalkeeper for the Warby, Gavin Campbell, who was a really good cat, played for St Phillies. And then I had Chris Higgins, who played for the Finnegans and the Job. Out of the two of them, Chris lived a couple of doors up from me, and he was a good St Phillies lad. But Gavin was more socially my mate, and I had to pull him in before the game. I never told him he was playing, and I had to say to Gavin, Chris is going to be the number one. It was hard, but at the end of the day, it's got to be done, hasn't it? Yeah. Someone's got to do it, and it needs to be done. And don't get me wrong, he might have called me all the...
Yeah.
Can you swear on this podcast?
Yeah, of course you can, mate.
No, I'm not. I'm going to try and get through without swearing.
Good lad.
He might have called me all the effing and blinding under the sun at the time, but...
Yeah, just on that, Mick, Thomas, you have something to say to Simon?
Why would you drop the person who does all the running? Surely that makes no sense. I'm the only person who runs.
Aaron, we'll do it privately. You know what he's like.
The thing is, Mick, I do think when you're one of the things that Thomas probably deals with more now is we're older as well. So although I'm as competitive today as I've ever been, it's never changed. It's different. Playing in the vets is different. So it's more about how do we keep people involved so that when we lose a couple of players, I've got players there to play. So it gets even more complicated. And although some people have calmed down over the years, others, like me, still want to play 90 minutes every week.
Yeah. There's a bigger picture, isn't there, in vets footy, really? You've got, it's like the long haul of the season, isn't it, as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
To be honest, me and Darren speak about that all the time, the bigger picture. There's certain players that can see the bigger picture, but then when they turn up on a Saturday, that goes out the mind. It's just about winning, and then they'll come up to you and go, why isn't he playing? He's better than everyone on, he's better than a few of the lads on the pitch. Get him on. Yeah. Saying, but he hasn't been here for 2 weeks. And if I drop a couple of these lads, they won't be here. And then we're struggling for players. It's always a bigger picture and trying to get through the season. And injuries in vets football is a nightmare.
Yeah, I went to watch a game the other week. All my mates now play for the Remy. So they're a split between the 40s and the 35. So Big Smig.
Yeah, we know Paul.
So he was my strike partner for the Warby for years, me and Smig.
He worked with me dad, strangely enough, and I played football with him a few times.
What a fella. Yeah. But obviously I went to watch them and you won't get anyone who loves it as much as him. I mean, I'm probably blowing him up here, but Smig used to tell his missus, right, that he was a referee, so he could go out saying I'm getting paid, and he'd be just going to play for the Warby, and he'd go, yeah, love, and he'd give her the 20 quid and go get yourself something. Oh, that is absolutely so he paid just to play football, you know what I mean? That's how much he loved it. Because you need to practice footy in. So he pretended he was actually refereeing.
That's genius. That someone's going to steal that, by the way. That is absolute genius.
I hope she's not watching his missus like. So.
I'll make sure to tell her.
Thomas will be telling Rachel next week, I'm refereeing now, love.
Yeah, not a chance. He's not getting away with that. So the problem Thomas has got is, you've got me in the team. My dad is his assistant. And he's obviously married to my sister. So what happens is that in their house, I get blamed for everything.
Yeah, you can't get away from it, can you?
Literally blamed for everything, mate. Whenever he's late home doing the podcast, it's all my fault.
Yeah, bad influence.
Yeah. So then, what we didn't talk about was during all that period, you were playing for the Warby on a Sunday, weren't you?
Yeah. So
the way through
until the injuries, mate. Yeah. So my last season playing for the Warby would have been. I got injured in it. We won the Junior Cup final on a Sunday, and I got injured in the game. We played a team from Iton called Rose and Crown. Bit of a bad tackle from behind, and my knee popped in the final on Wally Park. So that was more or less my last proper game for them. Few failed comebacks years after, but obviously my dad was the manager, so I was basically the assistant, and we ran it together for 4 or 5 years. Which was great, and we had a great team. And what I alluded to on my podcast, we had a bit of a secret weapon that we played in the Ormskirk League. So when we did play the Liverpool teams in the cup, unless they knew us, or until we rocked up, they didn't know who they were playing, type thing. Yeah. So we sort of had that in our weaponry, and we were a really good team. We just didn't make that next step. which was hard. And we wanted to get in the Liverpool leagues, but because we weren't an established club, I think they'd done a couple of favours for other teams, and he put them in a division or two higher than what they should have. But when we tried, they were like, you've got to go right in at the bottom. So we're sort of 24, 25-year-old lads then thinking, by the time we get the Prem, we're going to be 30.
Yeah.
Let's just stay where we are. But in the end, like they all do, the teams disbanded. So a couple of them went to, it was like a bit of a split. Some went to the Job, ended up winning the Premier Cup and the Business Houses Prem a couple of times. Some of them went to the View, which were a Kirkdale team, very good team. They lost the Premier Cup final, but another good team. And some went, where did a few others go? A few others played in the Crosby League with other teams like that. So we had a really good group of lads for a number of years.
So I can't remember you from this, Mick, but I played a game once for the Warbrach.
Oh,
I can't remember how old I was, but I was...
Was it the Saturday thing or the Sunday?
It was the Saturday, but they weren't some of the same lads playing in both of them.
No, we weren't linked. But the reason was we couldn't be called Warbrach, even though we were a pub. So we had to be called the Warby, because obviously Warbrach had got 60s, 70s or things like that. So, I mean, there was one or two lads who played for the Saturday Warbrach, who drank in the Warby pub. Remember the goalie, John McKenna?
Yeah.
Brilliant goalie. He played for the Saturday Warbrach, but never played for the Sunday.
Yeah.
Later on, as they got a bit older, there was a little bit of a crossover with Brunesk and the Saturday Warbrach, but the Sunday and the Saturday were a little bit different. They never really merged.
How funny is that? You would think that it'd be the same setup.
Yeah.
So I played a game for them one year. I hadn't decided who I was playing for. It must have been early on, must have been early 20s. And I played a game at some stage. I had a decent game. Played up front, actually. I was centre forward at the time. Scored a couple of goals. And then I went back to the Zavs. I'd played for Roma the year before, went to the Zavs afterwards.
Yeah. Used to like Roma. Roma were a great team.
Yeah.
Well, I played for the reps for years under Shuey. So I played for Roma for a couple of years. And then I eventually went and played for the reps. And I was captain in the reps when we went to the National Cup final.
Oh, right, great.
And that was where I spent a lot of time with Michael London and James.
Yeah.
James, who was an absolute nutter.
Yeah, couldn't get the quietest lad in the world and the loudest lad in the world in the show.
But heart of gold, Danny.
Yeah, brilliant. Both of them.
So here's a cracker. We played in the reps. We went on a real good run, and I was getting to know them really well. I'd known them for years, but I was getting them to know them much better. I obviously got quite close with Mick as well. It was obviously a top lad, and James is James. Got on with him quite well as well. And then we played them on a Saturday, and he went right over the ball on me. Literally, within minutes, the ball dropped and he went right over the ball on me. Came over and picked me up. And he just laughing because he's obviously done it to wind me up, but is coming over to pick me up afterwards. Hilarious. In that same game, he had a fight with one of our players as well. Yeah. And I had to drag him off. He was hilarious.
I used to say to Michael London, you're a shrunken down version of Martin Keown, just a while. But that's what he was like. He was that type of no nonsense defender. But I mean, what a career he had in the amateur game with the Waterloo and the Seymour.
Brilliant, mate. What a player. I've been lucky, and I hate to be nice about him while he's on the podcast, but I've played with Darren most of my life, and Darren is, as far as I'm concerned, the best centre-half I've played with, other than Mick. And very different, because I got to play with Darren every week, and I only played in the team with Mick at the reps. But he was unbelievable. I can't remember who was saying they'd never seen him lose a header. Sure, not that tall, not big, but just never lost a header. And I used to be the person who was going up against him for headers as well. And and I was like half a foot taller than him. He still beat me in the air.
Sorry, can I get a copy of you saying that? Because I
mate,
got very emotional for a moment. Then I didn't know what to do.
No, but I think if I was to pick two centre halves, even though I'm a big fan of Chandler as well, but Darren and Mick would be my centre halves definitely. Very different players, but Mick was great, and I mean, what's happened to him is just unbelievable. Love what they're doing with this Miles for Mick campaign. which Paul's doing, which is brilliant, which is going on now. But the lad's going through some horrific stuff at the moment, and his family. I feel really sorry for his young family.
Yeah, not half.
Good lad. So then you've gone through the playing, and then you get into managing. But at the same time, you're a mad Liverpool fan, aren't you?
Yeah. So I remember, obviously my family mad Liverpool fans as well, and my dad's travelled all around Europe, 70s, 80s, things like that. But I remember him saying to me, because I didn't play much Saturday footy when I was a kid. I was always Sundays until the first Saturday footy I ever played really was that trial up at Ashton, and then I played Stantonsdale in the counties. I was only 16, 17. I hadn't played any Saturday footy. I remember him saying to me, play as much as you can. Forget about the match. Obviously, the match will be there when you finish, or sometimes it's later. I mean, with Sky now, obviously, they're all over the games. You could probably do both, couldn't you? But at the time then, 90s, when I started going the game, I wanted to watch Liverpool. I was like on the back end of like John Barnes in the 80s. And we had the season tickets, and I wanted to watch them no matter what. So I didn't really play Saturdays, but then when I did, I remember him saying to me, "Well, someone else can go on your ticket. Just give it up for a few years," type thing, and then play as much as you can. And looking back, he was right, because if there's anything that I miss now, it's playing footy. I'd literally give me left leg to go and have a game of footy, like a proper game, one more competitive game of footy, you know what I mean? But obviously, watching Liverpool through some crap times as well as good.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s were tough, weren't they?
Yeah, it was, mate, especially losing to Everton. Everton had beaten others, didn't he? And then mid to late 90s, and I don't know, the Dogs of War and things like that. But
yeah, I also think it was a time when United were going through their purple patch, you know, when Ferguson was getting those players coming through, the Beckhams of the world and all those lads who came through the youth system. And Liverpool were transitioning, you know, and they were going through a difficult spell. And I don't think the transfer policy at the time helped Liverpool. They were buying potential and not really buying quality.
We went through a transition period for years, though, didn't we? I mean,
20 years.
It went on for a long time.
Yeah. But, and you know what, you blink and you realise now that United are sort of, not that they're going through the same thing, but it's all of a sudden it's that many years since they've won the league, and next minute the 5 goes to 10, the 10 goes to 15, and next minute you think, wow.
And they don't look like they're getting back anytime soon either, because their policy is shocking as well, isn't it? But they do remind me a bit of Liverpool in the 90s.
With the transfer policy. So.
Yeah, the transfer policy is not very good. They can't get themselves going. The coach, the manager situation is not great there as well. You think what they're doing with Solskjaer, they either need to back him or get rid of him. One or the other. Because either they're going to back him and it'll work out for them, or they'll go and get what they think is a world-class manager, and then they'll back them, and then Solskjaer will have been left out in the cold. They've got to do one thing or another. But then again, we did the same thing for years.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, along those years, don't get me wrong, there was some great times. That 2001 season, travelling around, watching them, and I got to go to all the finals and stuff like that. We were just like the best cup team in the world. But basically, didn't lose a cup game, did they, in a whole season? So that was great when likes of Marcus Babbel come in, and what a player he is. I mean, people talk about Liverpool players now and fullbacks and things like that. I know he played right back or centre half, but I think, how good was he? And people don't mention him. But he was like one hell of a defender and a proper footballer as well. So he always gets a mention from me. And then obviously Istanbul. I went to Istanbul.
What happened there, mate? What happened?
I almost never got there. Well, I think it was getting home. Getting home was a bit weird. Outside the airport, there was like I can only describe it as like a tent, like a Creamfield tent, and it was like sort of departures outside the airport. They couldn't fit enough people in the airport, so they done it outside. And then on the screens, what they said is they kept throwing it over the announcement thing. Don't go into the airport until your flight comes on the screen. 20 minutes or something like that. The frigging screen froze, didn't it? So the screen was frozen for ages. We're all going, it's all right. I put the serving ale in there. You've got a dish going on or whatever. So no one cares. Next minute, it's a free-for-all trying to get home. I ended up in the wrong part of the airport. The Turkish police took my passport off me. I had to rob it. I had to rob my passport to get it back. Like guns and all. And then someone from the British consulate, right? So we ended up in this departure lounge. And there was about 500 people on a plane that must have held 150. So this fella, British consulate come, he looked like Mr. Bean. And he goes, right, everybody, 3 coaches here. Get on the coaches will take you down the runway to the planes. And what he done, the crafty bugger, was he put us on the coaches, drove us around the other side of the airport and threw us out at the door again just to get a lounge. So everyone's going nuts. Hey, you can imagine, can't you? I mean, if we'd have lost that game, that fella from would not have survived, I can imagine. But we ended up getting home. I got home just in time for the parade. So I remember coming with my mate. We drove from where we lived in Oliver Park, shot up Scotty Road, and we left our car basically in the tunnel. It was like underneath the used to be a little car park there. Yeah. In the tunnel, ran around the back of St George's Hall, over the fence, and then as we ran out, we ended up underneath the cameras for the BBC on the steps of St George's Hall. So as we've come round the corner, I'm like, hey, and a fella looks at us and goes like that. He was basically saying, you can stay here, but don't say a word, you're underneath the television camera. So we had this great vantage point of all that outside St George's Hall, which was obviously unbelievable, and obviously what a game. Bananas, but I'll tell you the story about that. We're coming out the ground, and I don't know if any of you went or
no. I was in Greece. I was watching it on a screen with Ben Williams, who you'll know, who was at the Zavs.
Yeah.
Sadly passed away. But I was watching it. I was at his wedding, and we were watching it in a bar.
Right. Yeah. Condolences as well to Ben. By the way, I seen it was obviously 2 years. Was it 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Talked with his family there. What a character he was.
Yeah. Great.
I can only describe the aftertake as basically being on the moon. It was like it was in a quarry. You were in a quarry, and there was no way of getting there. There was no way of getting out. There was no footpaths. There was no roads. People were just coming over mountains. It was. I looked at Dr. Fun's on the stage giving it all the Liverpool stuff, and I just turned around and looked, and there's like a mountain or like a quarry. And there's a little trickle of red comes over it, and then a few more, then a few more, then a few more. And then it looked like lava coming down, like ants coming down this mountain. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this place? You couldn't get a drink in the ground. All the hospitality was shut. So at the end of the game, the Turkish kids had obviously gone onto like their own little graft. So they come with bin bags of ice and drinks. So must have been the kid about 14. We're all got piled onto these coaches, which was like the hottest coaches in the world. I think I was sat on the back on the engine. So I'm sitting on the back of this coach, and this kid comes up to the window, knocks on the window, and he's like got cans of Fanta and cans of Efes, lager and all that type of stuff. So he's like, 2 cans, however many, whatever it was, Turkish leader at the time. So I say, okay mate, go on. So I got 1 can and give him the money out the window, and then he was meant to give me the other can, and he's gone. The coach starts moving, and I'm like, he's going to keep the money. So me being like a bit of a flippo, I threw the other can at him. So I threw the only drink at this teenage kid, and he basically, the can hit him on like the side of the head or the neck or whatever. He just picked my can up with the other can, went like that, and offered me money, and I'm looking out this little slide window going, well, give us the drinks. And then he just started off to the next bus.
Well, surprise, Mick, we've actually got a link with that lad now.
He's a millionaire.
Exactly, yeah.
He now owns the stadium.
That is brilliant. But probably makes sense for them to close the hospitality, considering the amount of scousers who was in there.
I mean, you couldn't even get a drink of water.
Oh,
honestly, wow. I've never been so thirsty in my life. You couldn't get a drink of water. You couldn't get anything on the concourse bits. It was like the ground just wasn't ready. It wasn't ready or suitable for any sort of cup final. But obviously, what a memory, and
Amazing.
I went to Basel as well when we lost. That was a bit of a trip in itself. Not long after I'd done my knee in as well, so I was sort of hobbling about in Basel.
Getting beat. But so then, what do you think about what's happened over the recent years and what Klopp's done?
Unbelievable, mate, isn't it? Unbelievable. I can't think of anyone who could have done the job that he's done at Liverpool at the moment. And it's one of them where you literally say it. I know probably most people say it about the manager that they love, but you wouldn't swap him for anyone in the world. He's sort of...
You've not seen Thomas on the line on a stat, do you, Mick? First of all, he's well worth looking into. Can I just say though, the lads? No, I'm not a Liverpool fan at all, but I like Klopp. I like the way he plays. I like the way he tries to play a certain way, and I like also what he identifies an issue and he goes out and sorts it out. And I think that's why Klopp's been successful over the years, and certainly last year when he won the league, because he knew how he wanted to play. He knew the players he wanted, and he went out and got them. And whether it cost 75, 80 million, it didn't matter because it paid rewards in the end. And I like Klopp. I think he's an excellent man management, and I think his style is really important for Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, it's a connection. It's a connection, isn't it? He gets like the whole, I don't know, the identity and the way that the fans want the footy to be played, and like you said, then he identifies his target and he's willing to wait. He's willing to wait, and he won't rush out and buy a replacement for that player if he thinks that player's going to be the person that catapults them to the next level, which has been. So
it wasn't all about the roses, though, was it? Do you remember that night at West Brom when we drew and he took them all to the Kop? Yeah, and they were cheering the Kop when we drew. I've got to be honest, when I seen that, I was a bit like, well, I don't know about this.
Like you say, there's a method in the madness, isn't there?
Oh, he obviously knew what he was doing. You look at him now, and that whole hugging the players after the game and all that seemed really weird. I loved it early on, but it still seemed different than what anyone else was doing. Now, that's just, it's his norm, and he's got such a good connection with them. And it's almost like, I heard Trent talking about him, he said he's like one of your mates, but as soon as he needs that respect, he's got it immediately. You know, there's a big difference between when he's talking to you as one of the lads and one of the team, and when he's the boss, and that is a really clear distinction. And he's got that nailed with him, hasn't
he? Yeah, I'm dreading to think about him leaving now.
Yeah,
it'll be like, you know, you see them old videos, don't you, on where the fella from ITV or whatever it was gets the young kids and he says, Shankly's just left with him, and the kids, you're joking, aren't you?
Yeah.
What? It's like, oh, they got the long hair and the flares on and all that. You're joking, aren't you? Who said that? That's what it's gonna be like. Tears all over the place.
Yeah, I just obviously you come up through the 90s football, but you obviously knew about the 80s and Liverpool now. What do you think? Who out of the now team or the 80s team will get in the other team?
Probably a lot of them. I think Klopp could take any of them and sort of fit them into his mantle. Certainly, the likes of your Souness and your McDermott who'd walk in there.
Dalglish.
And he'd have to adapt the game, no doubt. Dalglish, of course. John Barnes. I just think what John Barnes would do in that team. He would, like, John Barnes when Barnes was there, I used to think magic, and then I had the same feeling around Suarez when he played. Yeah. Obviously, different demeanour to Barnes, but he was magic, and that's what you pay your money for, don't you? That little bit of magic. But a prime Suarez now would go in that team, and he probably was better than Firmino, but who knows if it'd work in the same way that it
wouldn't, because of the way Firmino plays. That formation just wouldn't work, would it? But who's the person that stands out for you in that Liverpool team now? Who are you looking for on the team sheet? And I feel better because he's playing.
Over the last couple of weeks, the goalie.
Yeah.
The first person I look for is the goal. If the goalie's not playing, if Alisson's not playing, I panic.
Yeah.
And then obviously up until a couple of weeks ago, Van Dijk. I look to Virgil and think, well, what would we be like without him? The last couple of weeks we've done all right, and you think, you know what? I'm confident. I'm a confident person anyway, but I think I was on site today and I heard one of the site agents and they were talking about, and I just like bounded and went, we'll piss you. I don't. It wasn't like an overconfidence thing. I just thought I want him to think that I'm confident.
Yeah.
so I said, we'll piss you. 10 points.
I'm really confident. I think we've played all the top sides and we haven't put a full 90 minutes together yet. And now we're internationals are out the way. And as we go on up towards Christmas and after Christmas, you get them group of games where you build your momentum and, you know, touch wood with injuries. But even the best sides that we've played, they're nowhere near being close to us at the moment. And that's with all our injuries. Slowly but surely, these players are going to creep back in. If he needs to buy in January to replace a defender, that possibly may happen. But I cannot see anybody getting close to us towards the end of the year.
I mean, the big game for you is obviously the Villa back at Anfield game.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
That's the game. That's the game, Darren, isn't it?
We carry 5 goals across. We play out 2 legs. Is that right?
Yeah, good idea.
So what, Darren, I've got loads of respect for Aston Villa, mate. Massive club. I remember when the Premier League first started and when you first got cable. And when the cable TV come out and they give you that Sky and Cable give you the 101 Premier League goals, and it had that cracker from Dalian Atkinson.
Oh, mate!
Dribbled through everyone and chipped the keeper. It's like, what a
player he was.
Unbelievable.
But you know what?
John Alford said he's one of the best players he's ever played with. You know.
Yeah. He sadly passed away, didn't he? 2 years ago, I think. But at that time, we had him playing with us. We had Dean Saunders. We had Ray Outland, all those type of players who were coming through. Because at the time, we bought Liverpool players.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. Yeah. We got Staunton came back to us. I think we had a couple of them. We had Sean Teal playing for us. McGrath was playing for us centre half. By the way, was the best player. Brilliant player.
Unbelievable.
But it's going back to Liverpool then. So what's next for Liverpool in terms of who do you think they need to push on again, if any?
Before the season started, I would have said a versatile forward who can play in any of them 3 roles, which looks like we've got in Jota. But I'd another. I don't know.
Let me help you out with areas where I think we've got some challenges. So if Wijnaldum doesn't sign us deal, then we've got a massive problem. Because he does a great job for us. And then we've also got this centre-half issue. Now, I don't think the centre-half issue is as bad as it looks because actually they're falling like flies. So the reality is, in a normal scenario, we're swimming in centre-halves, we're all right. The problem we've got is that it's difficult to get those younger players the games to get them to the level where they can come in and do well. And that's always going to be Liverpool's problem because Van Dijk doesn't miss games. This is the first time he's been. How many games did he play in a row? So now he's missed games. Now you're getting the younger lads to play. Maybe they get a bit of a chance to then become that backup centre half. So maybe you don't need to go and buy someone. But midfield is a problem for us if Wijnaldum goes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Milner's not getting any younger, is he? No. Thiago looks like he could carry on his injury form from Bayern, but like you say, ideally a young up-and-coming centre-half, possibly the kid that Leicester signed would have been ideal for us. He got a bit ragged the other night, but he looks good. You've got that Upamecano, haven't you, at Leipzig?
Yeah.
There's a few up there, pardon me. So, I'd like to see us sign a young up-and-coming centre-back.
Yeah. But they look good. So the player, we'll get back to what we were saying before about who do you look for. For me now, it's Mane. Now, I was talking to Thomas about him the other night, and he is the best and the worst player in the same game. So you'll see him and he'll do amazing things and his ability is unbelievable. And then it's almost like he just loses his head and plays a really stupid pass for some reason. And it's totally out of character.
On a back heel, yeah.
On a back heel, yeah. It's weird. It's almost like he gets a bit bored. But when he's on blob, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, mate. What a signing he's been, and people choked on the transfer fee at the time, didn't he? They bought it and said, "What?" But mate, what a player!
But it's the same for Jota. We were having a conversation about Jota when he came in, and paying 40+ million for him. We were a bit like, really? Is he that good? And then, to be fair, he's come in. He's been outstanding, hasn't he?
Yeah, but 23, he's still able to mould him, isn't he? And do what he will with him. So,
and that goes back to Klopp knowing what he wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And his scouting team knowing what he wants as well. And they've all bought into this project. And if you're on board with the project, then you know what to look for. And that's massive for me.
The thing with Jota is, you when you go back to pre-season, you'd have thought he'd even have been available.
No.
But you consider selling him. It just come from nowhere, didn't it? Everyone thought we were going for Ismail Sarr or somebody else of that ilk, maybe someone from Germany, another like wide, more to fill in the wide positions. But the way Jota can fill in across the three positions is working.
That's the beauty of it, and that's probably the thing that they've seen that most people haven't, that he can play any of those roles. But, you know, the reality is it's going to be interesting to see what happens between now and the end of the season, because it's going to be a tough season for everyone. And given the injuries that we've already had, if we can get back to somewhere close to full strength later in the season, obviously missing Van Dijk for a while, then I'm with Thomas. There's no one that's close. City don't look good at all. Tottenham are probably as close as it gets this year, and I don't think Tottenham will get close to winning it. We've just got to make sure that we win these games over Christmas, because that's where it gets really difficult with injuries.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mick. So you've gone through your playing days. You're loving Liverpool. You're loving watching Klopp. Then you start this podcast, and you managed to get all the big names from Liverpool Amateur, and you know you've had a few of the pros on as well. People like Trundle. And then classics like Frankie Strode, who was absolutely brilliant. I loved his one because he's such a nice fella.
What a guy!
Why did you start doing a podcast? Was it just stumbled across it?
To be honest, it was. I started listening to quite a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to Carragher's, obviously the greatest game, and I feel like there's a lot of things that they can't say. And obviously the professionals, anything that is a bit meaty, they'll all back for the book, won't they? Because that's obviously the little earner towards the pension or whatever. But as I said before, sort of going back to me nerdy things about football, and me and a group of my mates, David Jones, who was on the podcast the weekend, and a lad called Thomas Perry, we could just sit and talk about footy for hours and remember him who played for him. And it was sort of, if someone was in our pub and started telling us a story about a player in another team, that'd be me for the next hour or two, thinking, I love that. Because it's something you never hear or you never experience it unless you're in the gang, if you know what I mean. So listening to Carragher's ones, and I heard that Tobin Schmidt was writing a book about the Brit, and I thought, I can't wait to get a copy of that and have a read of that. What a player Tony was, and I'm thinking he must have some stories there. And then I thought, you know what about if we could sort of have little mini biographies of these players in a podcast format, and let them tell the story, because it's interesting. I didn't think for 1 minute there'd be as many people listening to it. I thought, I don't know, I didn't even know how to do it at the time, so I'm thinking to myself, I'll do a link on Spotify, and I'll send people the link individually and all this. I'm speaking to my mate who's a DJ, and his lad's like a producer, and he's saying, no, you just do a podcast, Nick. You do this, you do that. And I'm like, I remember speaking to you early doors, and you were saying, oh, we do this, and I'm like, wow. Okay, so basically just watched a couple of videos on YouTube on what to do. Downloaded the free software, bought a bit of the kit. I sort of got it as a birthday present off my missus. I think it was about 200 quid or something like that. Just like little mixing thing with a couple of mics and pop filters and stands and that. Plug it into the laptop and just mess with it basically. So the one that I released last week, which was the pilot with Dave Jones, who's like one of my best pals. When I recorded that first, as like the test, the audio was all messed up.
Yeah.
because I didn't really know what I was doing, whether it was 2 microphones in and out or it was all recording on one track. And I said to him, the audio was a bit crap, but we sent it to our mates to listen to, and some of them like, that was brilliant. We just need to sort the audio out type thing. So it's only like now 20 episodes on, when I had a bit of a break, that I could go back to it now that I know a few tricks in the digital game to try and up the level of the audio, which we got it to a listenable level. But at the time, like, it was a bit, this is weird, this. And then obviously I've got loads of mates from different teams. Kevin Wright, who played for the Wex and the county. Yeah. Kevin knows everyone. He works with us, Kev. And he said, I'll get you in, and I'll get you in. And don't get me wrong, there's a few people. I had a few of the numbers of the lads, and I've spoken, but some of them never held a conversation with. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just phone them. So if they get me number, I'll just phone them up. And Tony Sully from Highton, when I phoned in, we used to have some battles. We hated each other on the pitch. And we just get stuck into each other, and I phoned him. I said, Sully, it's Mick Watson here, mate. And he's like, oh, hello, mate. I said, do you want to come on the podcast? And he went, never in a million years did I think you'd phone me to come on your podcast. And it was like as if it was like a bit of an honour. And I'm like, don't be daft, mate. I want you to come on to tell everyone your story. Everyone's got their own story, and that's interesting to tell, and the little backstory of where they started playing, and then obviously everyone likes the bit of the names dropping at the end, who's the best at this and who's the best at that. So it just sort of spiraled like that. And then I know lads who obviously I know Leighton myself, but I went through someone else to get Leighton, and then lads who know Trundle and Lowy and Kev Ellison. And they were just the prime examples of what I was trying to get across, especially to these younger kids now, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you're willing to put in the work. Obviously, you have to have ability. That's top and bottom of it. You don't get anywhere without a certain level of ability. But it's like the old saying that hard work beats ability. When ability doesn't work hard, it's the same type of thing. And the likes of Ryan Lowe, who on his pod told us that he'd walked away from lucrative contracts, because he wasn't playing, to go and take a step down in the divisions or whatever, to just because he had the belief in himself that he could get to where he thought that his level and his ability would take him. And obviously, look at him now, he's managing Plymouth, and they're absolutely flying. So that's basically what I wanted to get across. But at the same time, lads who didn't make that sort of level as well, because to us, the Premier Cup, the National Cup, the Challenge Cup, it's a massive thing. The West Cheshire, anything like that, the counties winning those things is like there are sort of World Cup. So them little episodes that I do is sort of like a biography for them players, and it's sort of like, now that people have listened to them and liked them, it was hard to get people at the start, but now they're like, oh yeah, I'll have a go with that, no problem. And people are like recommending other people, why don't you get in? So, I mean, like I said before, it's a members club, so as long as people are listening to it, I'm willing to put the time into.
Mate, you've done an amazing job there. So the players that you've got on. So I think one of the things that you've captured quite well is that the difference between players who make it and players who don't quite make it, actually ability-wise is not that different. It could be right place, right time, more drive, know the right person, right time in their life where they get the opportunity. But you've got that nailed, because if you look at the players that you've got on, you've got some players who have gone to the top and done really well. And then you've got players that certainly me and Darren have played against over the years, who we know absolutely could have gone and played at the top level, but for one reason or another didn't make it. And hearing some of their stories about the trials that they've gone through and why it didn't quite work out, I found really interesting. Because we've all, I think actually there's a podcast called I Had a Trial Once. It's everyone that in Liverpool is got a story, especially from when they're kids. But I think some of the lads that you've got had on have been absolutely brilliant. Totally compelling as well once you start listening to him. But especially people like Frankie Stroll, because he's such a nice fella. And Jared Smith as well was another one. Once I started listening, I couldn't switch it off.
Yeah. I'd say it sort of obviously resonates with you a bit more if you know the lad or you know of him or the family. but the likes of Jared Smith, what a player.
Yeah.
Unbelievable technical ability and drive and determination to win as well from Jared and them, and with the APH at that time, that little spell that they had, and you just have to tip your hat to it and say, brilliance.
He was the kind of player who we played APH kind of late on in my time at the Zavs, and I played centre mid against Jared Smith. And to be fair, the game before we played, he'd just taken the piss out of me all game, and I just set out to stop him playing and try and play a bit of my game, but I had to stop him playing, and I had a really good game against him, and I was made up with myself because he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and he really struggled.
He
really struggled to get into the game, and he got really frustrated. Even though I knew him really well as well, he got really frustrated and was not happy because ability-wise, he was miles away from me, especially at that stage in my career. But it was that's the tactics around the game. But what a brilliant player, really good lad. Love what's going on with Dare Louis as well. He's doing a great job with the DJing and
flying
on the radio now and everything. But I just think the whole family is brilliant. You see pictures that he posts of his family, and they just look like a solid, really good family, don't they?
Yeah.
Nice lad.
Southend like bread, the old show bread, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I always think of the Southend.
Yeah, good lads. But yeah,
you'll have me singing.
Yeah, you've got a great list there. And then, so is the plan now when we get back to out of lockdown and you do more and you do like season 2?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I was just going to keep it going for as long as people want to listen to it. I mean, it's great getting listening figures, but like I said, as long as some people listen to it, doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how many. If you've got your little gang who want to hear what people have got to say, then great. Plus, we started doing like sponsorships of the episodes and then giving them to kids' footy teams and things like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant.
You know when someone sends you a message and they weren't expecting it, and you give like a couple of £100 to a team or and then you get the message back saying, look what we bought with this, and you're like, and people saying to me, why don't you do it for a job and all that? I've got no chance, mate. It's not like that. I'm not really interested in doing it for a hobby because I love footy, and if we can give a little bit back in the meantime, then great. Because a few of the sponsors who've come on have given to like community centres.
Yeah, you did the food banks as well, didn't you?
Yeah, the food banks, things like that. So I mean, that's our little way of sort of giving back. And like the Tony Cavo, the APH lads the other week, who started saying, let's do the food, the football thing to food. Look at the response that got from everyone.
Yeah, all around the city. It's like we were saying before, you know, Liverpool gets a bad name at times, and the amateur football does as well. But it's unbelievable how it's come together for things like Mick, Ben. We do a charity game for Ben every year, and that's really well attended. You've got the food banks that's going on. We're doing one actually at the South in December. So there's a local food bank that we've hooked up with through Phil Curlett, and he's doing a collection for the food bank from the South. That's a brilliant thing to do. And you've got people who are saving stuff up, or you know, getting money from other people, getting money from other businesses, and giving it to the food banks. That's brilliant, given what's going on right now.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. And that's what it was like. What you said then, we get a tough rap at times, sometimes footy fans, but when it comes to the nitty gritty, I know who had one sort of back in my corner when it comes to things like that. If you're from that community and you're needing, then I don't doubt how many people are going to be standing behind you, trying to give you the push up the ladder instead, kicking you down.
Yeah, just on that, the football for food banks. You know, the Liverpool and Everton who collect food at the home games. They just won a Northwest Award for Unsung Heroes. They got announced, I think, yesterday or today. So a big shout out for that, because that's a great community thing, and they got other clubs involved in the Northwest, and they just won the award. So superb.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think the more of that we can do at the moment, the better. All right, Mick. Tell us. I know we've just been talking about Liverpool before and the amazing games that you've been to, but we tend to end with what's your greatest football moment when we have people on. But you might have a couple, like watching one, and then maybe teams you've been involved in. What stands out? You say a goal that you scored one time, and then I'm not going to be happy with that.
Yeah, we'll cut.
No. So what? One of them, obviously, my lad's a goalie. So when we were playing the other week, he come out. He didn't have that much to do at this time. He come out, said, this is before I was the manager, and the manager asked him to take a pen because obviously he doesn't get the chance to score. Or whatever. He ran up and scored, and like my eyes filled up a bit because
brilliant.
How made up he was. So he must have only been about 7 then. So that was certainly one of them. Now helping run the kids is great. From a professional point of view, watching Liverpool, I went to City away in that Champions League run in 2019 when we'd done them at the Etihad. That was unbelievable. That's one of the best aways I've been to. And I went to the Allianz when we beat Bayern. That was to go there because I'm a bit of a footy connoisseur type thing. I've always wanted to go the Allianz, and I was always open for that draw. Like this year as well with Ajax, I've always wanted to go there to watch the Reds, but obviously you can't top Istanbul. But that Chelsea game that year, the Istanbul, the atmosphere, that was like our generation's version of Saint Etienne, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ghost goal.
And people saying about the atmosphere. I don't think you could compare the Barca game. Yeah, you could compare that, and when we played City at home in the home leg of that Champions League, that was some noise there in 2019 and on that run to the final. But and in terms of playing, probably winning trophies with my mates, no matter what level of trophy it is. Yeah, and I always say, short of winning the semi-finals, like the best feeling. It sort of beats winning in the semi-final of the release of you got to the final. The finals like the day out for everyone basically, and you invite your family and people who come to watch it and things like that. But winning trophies with your mates is unbelievable. I scored at Anfield once in a cup competition, and I did at the Annie Road. That was
nice.
That was great, and then basically management. Any wins in management is great.
Thomas is getting emotional there.
So basically, anything to do with football is your best moments, isn't it?
A chef for getting done by Villa.
That's one of the greatest moments of my time.
That's one of the best performances I've ever seen by anyone. That game, I know we were absolutely awful, so it was one of the worst defence, but there's no mercy there from Villa. He absolutely ripped us apart, didn't he, every time.
We listen, it's bizarre, but we can't end on a Villa beating Liverpool when you're on the podcast.
It's probably the best way to end.
Thanks very much.
You've got to give and take, haven't you? You've got to give and take.
Hey, listen, it'll all come round by the end of the year. Well, listen, Mick, it's been brilliant having you on. Obviously, I'm going to milk this as much as I possibly can and steal as much of your audience as we can as well.
I always recommend that they listen, mate, and the same with any other type of local podcast. I'm always happy to share their stories, and the more the merrier for me, mate. It's not a competition. It's basically the more that we get the amateur footy out there and people's views on football in general, then the better for me. So
it's brilliant. Mate. One of my best moments was we got into the top 10. And we were both in the top 10 at the same time, and I was made up.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, made me feel very happy.
There's room for everyone. Just pity we don't get that top 10 money, isn't there?
Exactly. Yeah, none of it. Mate, the thing is that we were talking about this before. It's so much fun to do. It's such a good laugh, and it's almost like therapy, especially at times like this when things are really difficult. It's like therapy. We come on, we chat about football for an hour, and then everything feels better in the world.
1 hour.
Yeah,
are we cutting this?
Yeah, definitely. All right, mate. Listen, we appreciate you coming on. Definitely get back to the podcast when we get out of lockdown because it's brilliant and we really enjoy it. So best of luck and have a brilliant Christmas as well, mate. We're not far away now.
Cheers, you too, lads. Thanks very much for having me on.
Take care, mate. Take it easy.
That was brilliant. Really enjoyed that. What a really good fella.
Excellent. Memory is superb. I'd just like to say is what struck me was not just the people he has on his podcast, but the things he does for the community.
Yeah.
You know, and people who sponsor his show, and then he gives it back to the community one way or another. I think that's an amazing thing to do. Fair play to him.
Yeah, I don't know how we're getting these people on that have got memories. Like, he remembered playing with kids in school and just right through his career. And I'm thinking, how the hell can you remember that? I can't remember last week.
Yeah, he's brilliant. So you've got to think that he must have written stuff down or racked his brains or something, because his memory of stuff from when he was like 16 is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's the detail as well. It's not just an occasion, it's the detail that it goes into. And the people he's had on his podcast, Simon, you and I have played against some of them, quality footballers who should have played a lot higher and for whatever reason didn't. So it was good to hear that some of the players he's played against. And his podcast actually goes into some of those stories, behind the story, if you like, of why they didn't quite make it. It was really good.
I think that's the thing that's good, is that what he's done is he's as we were saying to him, Eddie, he's captured that kind of mix between the two groups, isn't he? You know, local amateur football in Liverpool is really strong. And there's loads of players who you play against or you see over the years, you think, how are these not playing as professionals? And then he's also brought on some of the pros like Lee Trundle and Kevin Ellison and Ryan Lowe, who have played professionally, but are from the same environment. And the difference between those two is generally either right place, right time, or right time in your lifetime, or something along those lines. It's generally not ability, or commitments is probably one of them as well. But it's generally not ability, because some of these players are unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely play at the top level. And I think the other thing as well is some of them get maybe a bit disheartened when they can't play at the top level, and they don't want to play in the lower leagues. So then they go and play with the mates.
Yeah,
and you hear that a lot on his podcast. They say, I wanted to play with my mates. And he said the same.
I was wanting to play with my mates, but they don't do a five-a-side team.
Well, the other thing is as well, I didn't mention of Thomas going on his podcast during our chat.
No, I didn't.
I think he's held that back for me. He didn't, to be honest, he didn't want to put a load of, you obviously have played at the top level in Liverpool Amateur football, but he wants it from a different angle.
From behind the goalpost.
Well, I enjoyed that. He was great.
Really good.
Great. As you say, his memory is brilliant. And I think you spot on, Daz, is what he does for the community is probably missed, but he does a great job. All right, Daz, what are your final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts is we should mention the podcast name a lot more than what we did. So we apologise for that. So I think you should mention it in our closing part, Simon.
Yes, it's straight from the off, and it's Mick Watson. You can get it on all of the standard podcast apps. So he's similar to us. He's on Apple Podcasts. He's on Spotify. He's on iHeartRadio. He's on all of the podcast apps, so you can download it anywhere. I think generally people are using Apple to listen to it, but Google Podcasts, whatever you want, it's there. Tom, final thought?
Like I think you raised it in the chat there with Mick. We're doing a food bank or collections for a food bank or donations at South Liverpool on the 5th of December, probably a week after this is released. And if anyone's interested or any of our listeners want to donate some food or make a donation, cash donation, and know us or know of the club, they can pop down on that Saturday, and there'll be people there to take some money or food off them if that's what they wish. And it's going to a great cause, local people in the community, near to our club, and it's brilliant, and well done to Phil Carelitz for organising it.
Yeah, Phil's done a great job. But again, it's just an extension of what Mick was talking about on his. So he gets sponsorships for each one of the Straight From The Off podcasts. And then he gives that to either local football teams, local food banks, local charities. I think that is absolutely brilliant. I didn't know he did that until someone actually mentioned it on Twitter. So he wasn't even advertising it himself. He's just cracking on and doing it behind the scenes. I think that's brilliant. That says a lot about who he is.
Yes.
And his work in the community. The fact that he's managing teams, he's managing his son's team. I love that. Staying involved in the game. He'll be someone that will stay involved in the game for years. And that he's exactly the kind of person that you need around amateur football. Great lad, great to talk to, and his podcast is brilliant. So hopefully everyone's enjoyed this. You can get it on YouTube. You can go to the website at 3menoffootball.com, or you can download it from all the standard podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, whatever you want, we're there. Let us know any subjects you want us to talk about on future podcasts. We've got a couple of crackers lined up, and we're also going to try and do a bit of a Christmas special. And then we'll also this week do a live over the weekend as well, probably Saturday morning, get together, because we know people miss that. They like to and we know Thomas loves it so much. What we'll do, Tom, is
confirm that with me first.
We'll give you the script.
I mean, he hasn't got one already.
Yeah, definitely not, mate. He's definitely off script these days. All right, thanks, lads. Have a great week.
Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.